The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions.
Good morning, Noonan. Welcome into Rhino Radio Mornings. I'm Ryan O'Neill.
I'm Andra Polanas.
Yes, indeed. It's a manic Monday edition of the Rhino Radio Mornings right here on WQEE 99 Rock the Key. Coming up this hour, the Mr. Obvious Show. And, of course, we've got a lot more in store for you as we kick off headline news. It's a manic Monday, and we're going to keep on keeping on. Hope you had a fantastic, wonderful weekend, and we're back to work in style. This hour, we're going to talk about what happened on the Notre Dame campus with Vice President Pence, as well as we got a few little headlines from the state of Georgia. And we're going to talk about police in Los Angeles supposedly cracking down on MS-13 gang members. We'll have a little information from NPR on that, all coming up for you within this hour. At 17 minutes past the hour, good morning to you, my dear, my dear. It's good to have you back here with me, even though I did a fantastic job, I guess, last week.
Mm-hmm.
Had no complaints.
Right.
Nobody complained. Everybody said, oh, you did pretty good.
Well, that's great, dear.
But I missed having you with me.
Right. I went on vacation.
Well, what I told everybody is you were with your mother and did a Mother's Day week with your mother.
Right. We spent a week in the Caribbean. Jamaica, Caymans, Cozumel. I got to meet some very interesting people. Experience different cultures. It was a learning experience.
Oh, I didn't know that you went out of the country. I just thought you went out of town.
Well, at one point I had no clue where I was. I just knew that, I was somewhere in the
I didn't. Now that's
Gulf of
Mexico.
Well, see, the boat that we were on has one of those satellite. Well, it's like a. How do I explain it? It's like a little thing that shows you where you are on the map. Mm-hmm. A little blinking thing,
mm-hmm.
And the little blinking dot, that's you, right? So you can see how far off the coast of Mexico or Jamaica, how close you are to Jamaica and things like that. Well, at one point, and it'll switch and show you different views. And at one point, it was just all day long, it was just blue and a dot. And I was like, well, why are they not switching and showing us where we are in relation to the map itself? And I thought, oh my God, I don't know where I am. I have no clue where I am.
Well, you learned some culture. You learned some things.
Because when I got to Jamaica, the tour that we took in Jamaica we took a private tour, and I actually got to go, instead of most of the tours just take you around the tourist area of Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got to go into the local Jamaica people's, cities and see their schools and talk to the local people, and it was quite an experience.
Mm. Well, it's good to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Well, I mean, really, as far as the morning show, it's great to have you back for the morning show, but it's good to have you back from your vacation, because I didn't know if you were coming back from your vacation the way your mother talked when she took you. I was like,
I'm taking her down there to sell her.
You're taking my wife. No, that ain't what she said. She's like,
I wonder, hey, I guess you see she couldn't get anything for me.
No, it's not that.
No, we don't want her, no.
No, she said that she might just stay And I'm like, but you're taking my wife with you, and I'm not playing that now. You know, you just come and told me you were taking her with
Yeah,
you.
man.
You know, she's going on vacation with me. Wait, what? And then she tells me, I'm going to stay there. What do you mean? You keeping my wife? Wait a minute. You know, I knew she'd send you back.
Like,
but
no, take her back to America. We don't want her here. No.
Yep. But that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, she said she's going to keep her, but then I thought, well, maybe she'll send her back. I don't know. I'm glad she sent you back.
Well, I'm back, dear.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's get into the news. The headline news is what people want to hear on this 22nd day of May, 2017, 21 minutes past the hour. Beautiful sunny skies. Police in Los Angeles are cracking down on MS-13 gang members. Police have arrested nearly 24 MS-13 members after a 2-year-long investigation. And this is according to NPR, and they talked with the LA Times criminal reporters about the gang history, and here's what NPR had to say about it. Let's get them up and rolling.
Then I'm going to comment.
Yeah.
On Wednesday, LA police arrested nearly 24 members of the feared MS-13 gang in a series of early morning raids, the product of a 2-year-long racketeering investigation. You may have heard a lot recently about MS-13. President Trump has focused quite a bit of attention on the group, linking it to crime and illegal immigration. Here to tell us more about the raids and MS-13 is Richard Winton. He's a veteran crime reporter for the LA Times, and he joins me from their studios.
Hi.
So what can you tell us about the scale of the raids? Were these high-level members who were arrested?
Yes, I mean, basically the targets of this raid were not the lowly gang members. This was essentially the management committee, the sort of board of directors of MS-13.
Well, what do they make their money off of? And they are obviously a very feared criminal enterprise. What kinds of crimes are they accused of committing?
Obviously, murder is the most awful crime they're accused of committing here, and there's actually 3 specific murders in the federal charges report this week. They're also accused of robbery, rape, running a sort of after-hours clubs where they run prostitution, illegal drug sales, and human trafficking.
So let's remind people where this gang comes from. It actually started in LA during the 1980s.
Yeah, and this gang was originally formed essentially as almost a self-protection group against the existing gangs. When these people came from El Salvador, a lot of them young men, some of them had been soldiers and been involved in the civil war in that country, they came to the US and they formed sort of gangs. Those gangs evolved and at some point became really quite strong, powerful gangs on the streets of Los Angeles. They started to get deported back to their home country at that point, where they then wreaked even more havoc. However, what's happened is the people who went to El Salvador then came back to the U.S., or some of their relatives did, and then they appeared in other points around the country.
So it's been this, like, secular thing where people came from El Salvador to Los Angeles, became gang members, got deported back to El Salvador where they exported the gang stuff, and then that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so many immigrants flee Central America for the United States right now, because of the gang problem there.
Yeah, I mean, San Salvador in the last couple of years has been essentially the murder capital of the world because of these gangs which are wreaking absolute havoc there, at a level much more severe than we're seeing in the United States.
Were any of the gang members included in the indictment in the country illegally?
According to our acting U.S. Attorney, Sandra Brown, there was a significant number of them were in the country illegally.
Los Angeles is a sanctuary city. President Trump would say this is an example of why sanctuary cities don't work. What did the police chief and the acting U.S. attorney have to say about that?
Police Chief Charlie Beck was very quick to address this issue. In fact, he preempted that question yesterday when talking about this. He points out that MS-13 basically preys on the undocumented. They extort them, they rob them, they rape them, they murder them. They're the targets. What he says is, we wouldn't have made all these arrests today without the help of the undocumented. So if they didn't trust us and come to us, we wouldn't have a way to catch these people from MS-13.
That's Richard Winton, crime reporter for the LA Times. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
That is from actually NPR News, talking about police in Los Angeles cracking down on MS-13 gang members. The police chief, Charlie Beck, said there one thing I want to note out, that he's saying that he's being opposite of the illegal immigrants. He said if it wasn't for the undocumented immigrants, they wouldn't be able to have caught this dangerous gang from El Salvador, MS-13. Now, I don't know. I know they're saying it's allegedly members, but I'm not sure if it is or not. See, to me, I think
NBC News.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure I can be heard, okay? More than 40 suspected members of the notorious MS-13 gang faced federal charges Wednesday in Los Angeles in what law enforcement officials called one of the most significant busts of the transitional gang in its notorious decade-long history. So these are 44 alleged members, and it says that they're suspected. I mean, you have to look at this, because that doesn't mean that they are gang members. That's a way, see, when they write it like this, that's a way of saying, we're saying that they're suspected, but we're not coming on the record and saying that they are. Well, that's officially.
That's a way of the media is trying to cover their selves because of all the negative media out there. That's the way NBC's trying to cover their butts, because the thing about it is, this is from LA Times. He covered his butt, saying, according to a U.S. attorney, that there were a significant number of them in the country illegally. The thing about it is, we don't know if it is or isn't, but I do know that our court system ends up a lot of times protecting these gangbangers and stuff. And, I'm hoping that they really...
Which makes me wonder, like, why now,
Because
do they want to go out here?
You know why?
How can these guys go? They've been doing this for this long, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now all of a sudden they can just go out there and scoop up 44 like it's nothing?
It's because there's a problem in this country called people are too liberal, and we got a president that is really, really totally conservative, and these people are trying to feel like that they got to get their jobs up and done so they can, even though they disagree with their president. This is Los Angeles. This is California. California does not like our president. Okay? So now what they're trying to prove to him is we are doing our jobs. So that's all I feel like they're doing. They're trying to show that him, after he made statements about them not wanting to do this and this dangerous group of gangbangers in our country, they want to go out here and pick them up because the biggest activity is out there in Los Angeles. So the real issue of it is, we don't know whether these people were really gangbangers or not, but I'm pretty sure that...
That's my thing. That's my whole argument is, we don't know if these 44 people that they went out and arrested are really associated with this gang or not.
But I feel like they are. You know why? Because I've been out to L.A. and I played in Los Angeles. I've been out there. I know how people are. Okay? So what I feel like is these people already knew who the gangbangers were, and because President Trump wants to come down on this now, they want to look like heroes. Look what we did, President Trump. As much as we don't like you, and you said we're not doing our jobs, we did our jobs.
Well, some of these people that they have were in state custody, according to the NBC News.
In there, right?
21 people were arrested without incident.
So they were already there.
So, no, without, that means that they were doing nothing, and the cops just came along and snatched them. Now, when the cops come along and you're doing absolutely nothing, you're doing nothing wrong, there's no incident, no reason, no probable cause, nothing, and they come along and they just snatch you up, and then to cover that up, they're going to write a story and say you're part of MS-13.
Well, without an incident means they went with the police without a fight. They mean the police officer went up to them and arrested them, honey, and they didn't fight back to leave. They just went on with them.
Said there was 21 arrested without incident.
Right. That means,
and then 20 suspects already in state custody.
Well,
were transferred from state to federal.
So the 21 without incident means that they arrested them without violence or fighting or them resisting arrest. and then 21 that was already in there. Now that means they were already arrested. So basically, these gang members were already suspected and already arrested. They didn't go out and find them out on the street killing people.
No, it said, and they're calling them the high-ranking members, the shot callers.
Well, it could be. I don't know.
And they've been doing this. They've been active, okay? Supposedly, according to the sources, it says that they've been active for quite a while and known for murder, extortion, drugs, weapons, and, other related crimes. And now, all of a sudden, out of the blue, in the blink of an eye, our government's able just to go out and scoop up 44 of the high-ranking members just out of nowhere like this.
It wasn't our government. It was Los Angeles.
No, it says federal. Federal has nothing to do with state.
Well, then why is the news story saying that the Los Angeles Police Department picked them up?
Well, it says here.
So that's conflicting stories that we're telling about right here is what I'm saying. Coming from NPR, which is public broadcasting.
It happened in Los Angeles. Now, see, okay, here's the thing. Anytime the ATF, the FBI, and those federal agencies have to do something, they have to go into that area and they have to go to that local law enforcement. And they have to say, hey, we're the FBI. They have to go to, like, the Los Angeles Police Department and say, hey, we're the FBI here. We're working this operation here in your jurisdiction, da-da-da-da-da. They have to let them know that.
Okay. Now I understand why the police chief out there was saying that if it wasn't for the undocumented people, that the federal government wouldn't have been able to find it. See, what happened is we are coming down, our federal government, with the new regime and the new people that are in there. They're doing their jobs. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, they're doing their jobs.
So they come in here and snatch you up and haul you off, and you're an innocent man with no record, okay? And to cover it up,
I don't know.
They make a story up and put it in the paper and say you're some terrorist from another country.
Okay, they're doing their job.
They're doing their job.
They're doing their job, and listen to me. They're doing their job, and we don't. And you're saying that if you're going to say it like that in a conspiracy way.
No, I've seen them do that.
If you're going to say it like that in that way, think about this. There may not be 40-something people arrested. That may just be made up. There may have not been nobody arrested.
I'm just saying that I know good. I've eyewitnessed these agencies make stuff up on innocent people. I've seen it with my own two eyes before. Now, I'm not saying the person that they were accusing is 100% innocent. They might have done something like this small, but they blowed it up and made it look like it was this big a thing.
Well, no, it's not small when you do wrong.
But look, that's our tax dollars that these federal agencies use to get out here and make people think that they're doing all of this stuff when really they're not doing anything. They're just making it look like they're doing a whole lot of stuff. Half the people they hire aren't even qualified for those jobs. They lie on their applications to get those jobs with the ATF and the FBI.
Now, what it is they hire people like these idiots from Notre Dame who want to walk out on someone talking about God.
Well, yeah, let's get to that story.
Now, we'll get to that story in a few minutes. We got to take a break. But I got to take a break. We done went 5 minutes past what we were supposed to. Anyhow, I just want to respond one more. We don't know that these stories are totally true. We don't know that people have been arrested for real, because it could just be something that they're told to put the media out there to make people think they're doing it. Oh, we've busted this many people to scare these gangbangers that are out there, these gangbangers out there, and let them know we're coming down on you. And it may just be fake just to scare them. We don't know. Okay, but we don't.
No, we don't.
We don't. But our job is not to get on here and defend the gangbangers. Our job is not to get on here.
Well, our job is not to get on here and make them guilty either, because we don't know.
Our job is not to get. They're guilty if they're out. If they're gangbangers, they're killing people.
We don't know that these people are. They're alleged.
We don't know that these. Look,
they're suspected.
We're not talking about these people. Okay, we're talking about the gang as a whole. Okay, we're talking that this could be a fake news story because these gangbangers are not going to go without incident. They're saying that someone went without incident and someone was already arrested. So these gangbangers, they're basically trying to let them, hey, turn yourself in and we won't hurt you. Basically, is what they're trying to tell them. You don't see that this is what it is.
No.
If it's not real. It's to go after dumb people because it's not a smart person to be in a gang.
Well, this is what I see. I see that they went out and they got 44 people. Some of them were already in state jail, right?
And they were already in there for that.
And the federal government went in there and got them with a story, telling everybody we think they may be related to MS-13. So because of that, that's justifying us coming out here and arresting these people. And this is the story. We think they may be part of this gang.
All right. Well, what you're doing is trying to defend somebody who don't deserve to be defended.
No, I'm not. I'm telling you that's what alleged means. That's what suspected
Yeah, but
means.
they didn't say that.
It doesn't mean they are.
They didn't say they were alleged and suspected. They said they got them without incident. Means they didn't fight.
The source that I was reading, NBC News, said alleged and suspected. They were suspected
Okay, well,
to be a part of this.
The news story I got, and this is they just interviewed the guy from Los Angeles. These are considered MS. Whatever the heck that is,
MS-13.
MS-13, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean.
It's just another gang.
It starts for mildly stupid something. I don't know.
Well, see, here's the thing. Gangs, you got to understand how gangs start to begin with.
They start because people don't give people jobs. That's all it is.
Well, they start because that's part of it, but they start because they're children. Okay, gang members mostly from I took a class in this in juvenile criminal, juvenile delinquency class. I learned that a lot of these kids were kids that didn't have families, and they were, like in the inner cities and stuff. And they all got together and started depending on each other for survival.
Well, I understand that.
They didn't have parents, like their parents would be like drug addicts, or some of them's parents abandoned. These are people, let me just put it this way. These are people who were abandoned. They were abandoned by their families. They were abandoned by society. They were abandoned by the community. They were abandoned, outcast people who got together and learned to depend on each other for survival. Now, some of that survival they had to resort, to begin with, it was resorting to, criminal activity, and it probably started out little stuff like stealing and stuff, and then somebody a little bit smarter than they were came along and said, hey, I can take advantage of these poor outcasted people who are abandoned. Let me be like Charles Manson and Jim Jones and be their leader. And get them into more serious crimes. And see, you have to desensitize somebody's conscience to get them to kill without, that so easily, and get them to do things,
Well, anyway, I feel like that the story could be something just so our government can scare these gangs into telling them we're coming after them, or also could be wanting them to turn themselves in because our government is fed up with these gangs.
Well,
that's it. We're going to take a break.
Think about it like this, Ryan. What if all of a sudden we got up tomorrow morning, there was a big news story that the federal government's arrested 50 radio morning show hosts for what they were talking, and it really just gave very vague information. Would we get scared that they're coming for us? I think I would. I'd say, oh no, Ryan, they're coming for us.
All right, I'm going to take a break. Stay tuned. Back here in a moment.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusion.
Good morning, Noonan. Welcome into Hour of Power right here on WQEE 99 Rock the Key on Rhino Radio Mornings. I'm Ryan O'Neill.
I'm Andrew Polanas.
That's my lovely bride. That's my lovely bride.
Yes, I'm so lovely.
At times you are when you're asleep.
All the time.
When you're asleep you are.
I'm lovely 24/7, dear.
Who told you that?
Well... You mean somebody has to actually tell me that for it to be true?
Yeah, somebody has to actually tell you.
I can't just believe it by faith. Faith is the evidence of those things that are unseen, right? the evidence of those things that we hope for. Aren't these things that you hope for?
Yes, I have to agree with you. Yes, please don't.
You're supposed to say, yeah, you're supposed to agree. Yes, dear.
Yes, dear.
Married man.
Anyway, it is the Hour of Power on this Manic Monday. Want to thank our proud supporters at Biblical History Center, located at 130 Gordon Commercial Drive, 706-885-0363. Open Tuesday through Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it is like visiting ancient Israel. Well, let's do this right as we get kicked off. All right, everybody, like we said last week, let's hold our hands up. Let's say it. We are sinners. We are sinners. We are all sinners.
Well, I've already been saved. I'm not a sinner anymore.
You are a sinner.
Saved by grace. I'm saved.
You're not I'm not finished.
I'm the church, dear. I'm not a sinner.
Sit back and listen. We are sinners. And we have been saved by the blood of Jesus Christ. But we are sinners who have been saved by the blood of Jesus Christ. But Jesus has gave 100% to us, and we only give 0 to 1% to him. So that is what it is. I'm saying that we are saved. No. We are all saved, but you cannot sit there and say you can do what you want to do and stuff, and that's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is we are all sinners. We've been saved by God. By Jesus, by the blood of Jesus. But now that we've done that, now it's time to get into the reality of us being Christians and being part-time Christians.
Now, just FYI, ladies and gentlemen, I know he's been doing the preaching while I've been on my vacation. So, and I have had limited internet access, so I haven't been able to listen to the stream. So, I'm going to just kind of let him take the lead, and I want to just kind of see what you guys have been experiencing this past week.
You're going to want to take over. I told everybody Friday, I said, you know, this is good. I said, don't worry about it. Andrew will be back on Monday to take over.
Oh, you poor people out there. What's he been doing to you while I've been gone? What has he been doing to my precious people?
I've been calling them out, honey. I've been calling them out.
Well, like you're not like my people, you know. I mean that just figurative speech.
I know what you mean.
They're God's people, really.
I know what you mean. We see last week we studied entitlement. We also studied Jesus showing God's power by healing the blind man. We studied the Pharisees saying that, asking Jesus, are we blind? And Jesus saying, well, if you were blind, you would have no sin, but now that you can see, you have sin. Okay? And
well, if you claim that you can see.
Yeah, you claim you can see. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Okay. And we also studied on how we have we're split in half as Christians. We're in one and one. And we studied last week about part-time Christians. Full-time Christians and part-time Christians. Part-time Christian is someone who shows up, does their thing at church, or does their thing, maybe say they believe in God, or they dance around in the church, throwing their hands up in the air, and then they say they're going to go buck wild and go out to Las Vegas and go buck wild, or somewhere like that, and they go buck wild and do something they're not supposed to do. That's a part-time Christian. What we talked about was I called all our brothers and sisters out there out, and we got to step up. We got to step up for our Christianity, even when they walk out on us for speeches, even us disrespecting that office. Even though when these liberals walk out because they want their way, we still have to stand up, because eventually people out there, people look up to us and they want to be like us. And people don't know this, but the reality of it is, non-believers, lost, and everyone else out there wants to live the same Christian lifestyle that we're living. They want to live they want the same type of marriage that Christian marriage has, when a husband and wife love each other and don't do anything. They want the same kind of lifestyle that a single person has when they're not running around with each and everybody every weekend, getting high, getting drunk, and having one-night stands, and then showing up to church. See, one thing I said was, you can't pick somebody up in the bar, have a one-night stand with them, and take them to church the next day and think that's going to be the man of your dreams.
You know, people do that.
I know, honey. Believe me. Yeah, I know that you've experienced this, because not you as a person doing it, but working in the church and going to church.
I've never look, even before I got saved, I never picked up anybody in the bar. But
no,
I knew girls that did. You know?
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about you knew people in the church that did that.
Oh, well, I know people that go to church and they just go each other in the church. I've seen that too. I mean, I've seen a little bit of everything. You can't really go by me.
Well, we got into that too. But what we got into is part-time Christians. You guys have got to, we're going to get into a different.
So you're saying these are people who are just Christians in name only. They don't really practice the Christian principles and beliefs. They just call themselves Christians for, like.
See, they
say I'm a Christian, but then they live by worldly principles and not by the biblical principles.
They don't live by the Bible. And they choose and pick where they lose out. As part-time Christians, they pick and choose that Bible. So basically what I'm saying, what I was talking about part-time Christians is people what I was talking about last week is...
Well, you know what that's called?
What?
When a person does that? Adultery.
It's
adultery. People think that adultery is... Most often, and when you look up the definition of adultery, especially like in the Black's Law Dictionary, so in different contexts or different forums, the term is defined a little differently. But when you abandon your godly Christian principles and you abandon the faith, that is adultery.
Well, you see, I like that you saying that.
Apostasy is another word people use for it.
Okay, and and all week, Sundays, all the spiritual programs that we had on here on Sunday mornings, including Charles Stanley and everybody, they were speaking about being in the world. Every one of them said love the world, but not be of the world. And here's the thing. Being a part-time Christian to me is when you tell me, well, I know Jesus Christ and I'm going to heaven, but then you go out there and you live in the world. You start doing what the world does. You're supposed to be the leader that they're supposed to look at. You're not supposed to show up. You're not supposed to show up and follow what they're doing. If they're getting messed up, high, drunk, you don't leave church and go do that. You don't leave church and go party and say that, well, it's just part of my generation. What I was saying to you is you're a part-time Christian and you don't know Jesus. You're spitting in Jesus' face when you say that, and you're thinking you're entitled to go to heaven automatically because you know Jesus Christ and he sacrificed himself for your sins so you can just keep sinning. So you're going to keep piling your sins up on top of Jesus. You're going to keep spitting in his face, and you don't think God, his Father, doesn't like that?
Well, it's not always just about drinking and smoking. I mean, it's
I'm
also
talking
about
anything.
how you treat people. It's also about being honest and in having integrity and
Well, we got into all that.
sharing and loving one another. The way you express, the way that you treat other people shows how you feel about God. Jesus takes it personal. I'm just going to lay it out here for you. The way you treat other people, Jesus says that's the way you treat, that you're treating me that way.
Yeah, and but here,
and he takes it personally.
And this is something else we talked about last week. I'm like, being a part-time Christian also means that when you ignore the homeless person on the street and they need to get a job and they're homeless, okay, you're thinking you're better than them. You're not being a Christian. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about people waiting around till their parents die to take their money from them. People doing, and then they're claiming to be Christians, and they're telling you you're not a Christian. See, a full-time Christian is someone who goes through a lot of stuff, who's going through a lot of stuff with God, and they do everything they're supposed to do. Are they perfect? No human being is perfect, and they're going to act like a human being. That's what I said.
I say they're trying to do everything they're supposed to do, because I can honestly tell you that
trying.
You try your best. What you do is you just try your best, and in the areas where you're not doing so well, those are the areas for growth, and those you'll get stronger in certain areas over time if you stay consistent with practicing Christian principles. But you have to practice these principles on purpose. You have to make yourself and discipline yourself, and a lot of it's disciplining your thinking, changing the way you think.
Right.
And then when you change the way you think, your behavior will change. Now, it won't change overnight. And, And look, and people who who really could care less about trying to live a Christian life for real. They just want to tell everybody they're Christians, right? And they go sit up in church. A lot of times they only do that so they can target real Christians and look like they know what they're talking about.
Well, yeah, that. But I'm more concerned. What I was more concerned with is they're more, to me, that's one thing. But when you're out here and you show up to church and your pastor says to give all your sins to Jesus, and you do, but then you continue to do this every day or every weekend or something. And the problem is we defend ourselves too much as Christians. We defend our families and this, that, and the other, and we give them excuses for doing things that other people out here do, and we want to see them go to jail. We give people excuses for other things, and we want to get rid of the we want to disrespect all the presidents for certain things they do, but then we let our family members do that because they're our family members. We love them. We've got to overlook that. We got to start saying you've got to be really Christian. Step out of being a part-time Christian. Step up to being a full-time Christian. Does this mean you're going to be perfect? No. Does this mean you're not a sinner? No, you are a sinner, but as long as you give you give yourselves to Jesus, he takes all your sins, but then you've got to practice not trying to pile those sins up on Jesus and keep spitting in his face. That's what I'm saying. We as a society, the non-believers, the lost, and everybody else looks up to us Christians. They look up to single Christians. They look up to married Christians. They look up to pastors.
This is the thing, though. When those people start looking up to you, the fake Christians go over there to start talking bad about you, so they'll stop looking up to you. They want to make you look bad, because here's the thing, whether you're a Christian or not, you're going to have faults and flaws. Period.
No, yeah.
A Christian has faults, a Christian's not perfect, and a Christian's going to make mistakes. Now, when you see a Christian and a Christian going at it, pointing out each other's mistakes and everything, one of those people are not really a Christian.
Well, you shouldn't be.
One person's jealous of the other person's influence.
Okay, here's the thing. I agree with that. But what I'm saying has nothing to do with it. And really, they're both wrong if they're pointing each other's flaws out. See, all I'm doing is calling my brothers and sisters out to step up from being part-time Christians and be full-time Christians and give up their lifestyles. Yes, sometimes you might think being a total Christian is boring, but like I told them, it's not. Having Jesus in your life is not boring. It's the most exciting thing you can ever have.
It's a wild ride. That's all I can say.
Forget the Six Flags ride. Forget going all the way up there. Forget climbing a mountain. Forget climbing Mount Everest. Forget all of that. Because nothing is more exciting than being a Christian and really having Jesus.
And it can be scary at times. I'm just telling you.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is there's nothing more fun than that. Going out here partying with your friends, getting drunk, sleeping with anybody.
So basically what you're saying is you're saying that Christians, the real Christians, need to kind of clean up their lifestyles a little bit so that people can tell they're real Christians.
Exactly.
Again.
And tell that we're real Christians.
There used to be a distinction.
Yeah, and people would look up to us. They felt bad about the things they did. Somebody sitting in a bar, and I'm not just picking on bars or anything, but I'm just saying somebody sitting in a bar getting drunk going, I wish my wife and I were like John and Mary. I wish we were like John and Mary's family. They get along. They love each other. They don't cheat on each other. They don't go out here and find other people to sleep with. They don't get drunk and drugged up. I wish my wife and I could be like that. But
well, sometimes, I see what you're saying. They should see something in your life that they want. Yeah.
No, what I'm saying is that's how it once was for a lot of people. Now, when that same person is sitting in there and they turn around and see John and Mary in there separately with other people, and they know John and Mary go to church every week and claim to be Christians, and are always trying to convert Joe into being a Christian, and he sees Mary in there with another man and John in there with another woman, or whatever. He's sitting there thinking, they're just like I am. They're no better than I am, so why should I believe in this thing, this entity in the sky called God? Because if he was real, wouldn't they be showing he's real? Didn't these stories we read about, because they've read stories. Don't let nobody not let you make you believe that nobody in this world don't know the story of Jesus Christ. It's the same story that everybody knows, and it's been the same since the beginning of time. It has not changed like Hitler and stuff. It's been the same story. And what I'm saying is, these people know the truth. They know that, but then they look at that, and we as Christians, and being part-time Christians, we are running our people. We are running people away from God, and God is tired of that.
Well, here's the thing, okay, and I need not to be interrupted.
I'm sorry.
Okay, here's the thing. Not people who look at Christians and they're looking at other people for the purpose of trying to decide if they want to be like them or not. These same people now do not want you to look at them and accuse them based on well, you saw me over here, so now you saw me over here talking to this person, so now you want to accuse me of something improper with this relationship, when really, I was just asking for directions or something. I mean, those same people now, they don't want you judging, as a Christian, judging them and putting them down for their lifestyle, okay? So, now that's kind of a double-edged sword there, because these same people will look at you sometimes just to find some kind of little fault or flaw, because they really don't care anything about being a Christian. They're just looking for an excuse to go do what they want to do. So they see one little fault, one little flaw of yours, and she's just like me. No, just like I can't judge you for that one little tidbit of information I have about you. I can't draw a whole conclusion about who you are based on bits and pieces of information. You can't do the same thing to a Christian. Well, because I'm sitting here telling you Christians are not perfect. So whoever gave you that, whoever set your expectations whoever told you to expect a Christian to be perfect, lied to you.
Okay, no, that's not what I'm
They
saying.
didn't properly set your expectations.
See, this is not what I'm saying. That's too. I'm not saying in a defense. We're not going to defend what's going on. We, as a Christian nation, need to step up. Yes, I'm talking about people. I'm not talking about people that want to run us down out there. I'm not talking about all the liberals. I'm not talking about all the people who want to run us down out there, honey. I'm not talking about all the people who are our enemy, because God, he wants everybody. But those are not the people he's talking about. He's talking about those people who really want a relationship with him, but we run them off by living in their world instead of trying to show them our world, is what I'm saying. We are slapping Jesus in the face and continuing to sin. Well, I'm not saying that we're perfect. I've said this all week long last week, that people are not perfect. No person's perfect. This is not what it's about. It's about part-time Christians doing things they shouldn't do and claiming to be Christians, and they're part-time Christians. Just because you get out there and you jumping and you're throwing your hands up and you're hooping and hollering in the church, don't mean you should be out there hooping and hollering in the club the night before. There's a big difference in doing it for Jesus and doing it for the world. See, doing it for Jesus is one thing. If you're going to do it for Jesus and you're going to live that lifestyle, no, you're not crazy. I think that the rest of the world is crazy. They think you're crazy if you want to do that. And that's what I said last week. I think but you cannot go live in the world. And when you go out in the world, you've got to show them we are a strictly married couple, or I'm a single person who is not here to do anything that God does not want me to do. I am not here to be involved in the world. You're supposed to love the world, but you're not supposed to be in the world. And that's what the preachers have been preaching the last 10 years, and nobody's listening to these Charles Stanleys and Rick Warrens. They want to do what they want to do, and that's why we have lost people, non-believers, and that's why it's the guy that's bad it has is because we've jumped into our part-time Christians have jumped into their one.
You know, I remember a point in time in my walk with God when I started seeing those things that you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, I was single, and I had just started a new career, okay? And I had not been in the workforce for a number of years because I was waiting for my children to get in school and everything.
Right.
Before I went back to work. So
Right.
after having been out of the workforce for a while and going back into a totally different work environment than the one I came out of,
Mm-hmm.
I started, realizing that God put me here. And I was, in my 30s, but I didn't really look that old. And here I was working with a lot of college students, okay? And I'm here to build relationships with these people, okay? And I'm the Christian, okay? And this is not a religious setting. This is a setting where I'm the Christian,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not in a situation where this is religious. This
Mm-hmm.
is career. This is like just being person-to-person kind of relationship. Now, my challenge was to somehow, and this is how I had to learn to do this. I had to show that I was a Christian without actually saying and announcing out to the world I'm a Christian.
Mm.
So we would do these things where we would all get together, after work. After, there were social activities outside of work as part of team building skills and
Mm-hmm.
things. So a lot of times they would want to go to, where they sang karaoke and things. And, there's alcoholic beverages served in these places and things like that. And at the time, I was going to church. And now here I am trying to live in my world as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that you can set the standard. You can definitely set the standard and people will realize without you, look, if you're strong enough in your beliefs in God, they know without you having to say it. By the way you act, by the way you dress. And so what I started telling people was, see, and I realized, I said, okay, the preachers have been saying, don't go out to the clubs, don't drink, don't do this. And what happens? People do it anyway. So I said, well, I can't necessarily say that because it ain't worked for them. It's not going to work for me. So I kind of changed my approach a little bit. I came out and said, all right, if you're going to go out, if you are going to go out to one of these places, you don't have to go half naked. You don't have to sit there and get drunk and fall out on the floor. You don't have to get out there and dance and look like you need to go get a room because you got your body parts grinding all up against. If you can get out there and clean dance, you can get I'm not saying drink alcohol, and because I'm not saying don't, because as soon as I say don't, 10 of y'all gonna run out and get a beer just because I said not to do it. I'm not gonna do that because I already know that doesn't work with you. But I will say this: you don't have to overconsume your alcoholic beverage. You can sip on. Honestly, I don't believe alcohol was meant to be guzzled. Anyway, I believe it was meant to be sipped on. Sipped. To where, you're not supposed to drink it until you get all drunk and sluggish and you don't know what's going on.
Right.
That's abusing. Anything that you do like that's abusing it. If you sit there and just sip it, you're not going to get drunk like that. You're not going to get a DUI sipping. And don't think for 1 minute the people around you that are tossing them back right and left, they're sitting there watching how many you drink. They're going to know, well, she's been holding on to that one drink for 2 hours. You know?
But
you see, you're setting a standard.
But yeah.
They're sitting there, and your skirt's down. You're not showing your breast. You're not showing.
Is that,
your underwear's not showing.
I got a question.
For
you. But that's the people in the world, right? That's not Christians.
No, I'm saying if you're a Christian and
you
you're
don't go out and do
in,
that. You don't drink. You don't need to go out and drink.
Well, if one person doesn't want to drink at all, that's fine. But if another person, if you are a Christian,
then you're not,
and you're just holding like a glass of wine or something, but you're not getting intoxicated, you're sipping it, you're still setting a standard. You're still setting an example because the people around you are sitting there drinking drink after drink after drink. And then they get out there on the floor and they get some guy, or in this case, I've seen 2 girls do this, get up there and start grinding their midsections up against each other, looking like they're having, the only thing they need to do is take their clothes off, and they'd literally be having sex on the dance floor.
Well, here's the thing. My whole point of what I was preaching has nothing to do, it has to do with giving all that up, period.
Yeah, but they're not going to do that, though. Preachers have been saying that forever.
No. You're not listening. Then they're not Christians, is what I'm telling you.
No, it's not necessarily
No, listen to me.
You're preaching extremism, dear.
No, I'm not. I'm preaching reality. God said he's tired of us using his son to get away with things. He's tired of us as Christians saying that Jesus is died for our sins and we're going to go out here and live in the world.
Well, you know why? Look, I'm going to be honest with you.
And every
I felt like, okay, well, here's the thing. When you're in different social settings, whether it's on the job or whatever, you're not always in control. And you can't influence people if you alienate yourself from them. So, in that situation, I could have said, well, I'm not going. I don't want to go to this activity, this social activity.
I don't drink, so I don't do that kind of stuff. People don't have a problem with me.
Yeah, but what ends up happening is you end up going home and they end up going to the club, and nobody there is setting a standard. See, you're the Bible. You're all the Bible some people will ever get to read. So if I'd have went home and I hadn't went over there to show these people how to be classy out in public.
God does not want that anymore. Maybe that was 10, 20 years ago or whatever when you were doing it. That's what God called people to do.
I'm going to be honest with you. I honestly, in my heart, I didn't want to go. but I knew I had to. I was uncomfortable. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about is a person that really wants to go. They want to go live this lifestyle, but they want to cover it up by saying they're a Christian. In my case, it wasn't like that.
No.
I really didn't want to go do this, but at the same time, I knew I kind of had to.
Well,
I had to.
You see, everybody's called different at different times, but what I'm saying is God is tired now. And it's not calling people fake Christians. I'm calling them part-time Christians. You can be a fake. The only way you're a fake Christian is if you're totally into Satan and you're walking up into church and pretending. Or you're a witch and you're walking up into church and pretending. Okay, that's a different story.
Or you're lying and manipulating.
But a part-time Christian is someone who is living in the world, and telling me and telling you and telling every other Christian that I can go and get wild when I want to, and God, as long as I know Jesus Christ, I can do what I want to do. And God is
like sin with like a license to sin.
License to sin.
Yeah, that's
and
not
right. That's what we're doing. And that's why we've influenced people to be non-believers, and that's why we've influenced people to be lost, and that's why we've influenced people to do these that's why he's got this generation of kids who want to do all kind of things that they shouldn't be doing, because we said we were going to go out and do what we wanted to do, and we taught them in the same way. I can tell you right now, you ask somebody, you start telling them you shouldn't be doing this, this, and this, and this. I believe in Jesus Christ. He's got all my sins. And we feel like it's a license to do what we want to do. And God is tired of us. What I'm saying, God is tired of us as being part-time Christians. He's tired of people using His Son and saying, well, the blood of Jesus Christ is over me, so I'm all right. No, you're not. God is saying you're not. God's saying you're spitting in His Son's face, and you're using a license to sin, and you're not doing back for Jesus. If you're going to do for Jesus, sometimes you got to give things up you don't like. And if you think your life's going to be boring with Jesus because you're not partying anymore, or you're not running around, or you're not hanging out with your opposite sex friends or whatever, then you know what? Then you were never really wanted. Then you never really asked Jesus into your life. If you really asked Jesus into your life, then you would know that everything that the world is doing is wrong, and that you have to give it up. And you have to give at least 10 or 20%, because God knows you can't give 100% like Jesus, and God knows even if we wanted to give 80%, we couldn't get that far.
Well, now that you mention it, by the time I had gotten to the point where I was doing what I'm talking about, I had already been saved. Now, I didn't just get saved and run out and do this.
No.
When I got saved, let me just back up.
Yeah, let's.
When I first, I've always believed in Jesus my whole life.
Right.
But I didn't actually have a personal encounter with Him until I was about 28 or 29 years old.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
By the time I got to this point to where I was doing all this, I was 35 years old. So
yeah, that was a long
for
time.
the first 3 or 4 years of after that encounter that I had with the Lord, I completely, and the Apostle Paul did this too, I completely and totally withdrew from the world. And all I did for like 3 years was study my Bible and pray and sit at the Master's feet and learn, and I let the Lord teach me, okay? And I grew strong.
Right.
And I had, because what I had to do, I had to lay the proper foundation. Now, did that mean I still made mistakes, okay?
No. Yeah, we know that.
Because, you have certain weak areas in your emotions and everything.
Yes.
And then there were times when people in my life would be persecuting me because of the sudden change in my life, because of it made them uncomfortable in their life. Okay.
You see right there.
And they would start attacking me, and you're wrong for you're taking this too far, and da 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 da. And I would withstand it up to a point, and then my emotions kicked in. You know
That's
what I'm
saying? Just a human being.
My emotions kicked in.
Right. That's just being a human being.
And then I might get mad and start acting like I'm not a Christian.
Right.
Because I'm being bombarded with this unreasonable abuse from people around me who's saying they're Christian Christians too.
That's the part-time Christians I'm talking about.
And they are, not really Christians. They'll lie in a heartbeat.
Well, they're
get what they
part-time
want.
Christians.
They'll
They're part-time.
steal something in a heartbeat if they can
That's
get
what
away
I'm
with
saying.
it. They'll sleep with your wife and shake your
That's what I'm
hand,
saying.
while they're smiling, won't sleep with you. Those kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I was in an environment where I had to get out of that environment. I had to get out and get away from those people because they were just driving me crazy. Like, I couldn't have a moment's peace. And all I wanted to do was go to church and raise my children and live for the Lord. That's all I really wanted to do. I was happy doing that.
Okay, so what you just said connected into what I was telling people. Okay, what I've been preaching the last week about is you were living the living for Jesus. You were getting away from the world, and I don't mean getting away from the world as just being secluded, because you did that first couple of years. But what I'm saying is, you were getting away from the world and not acting like the world, and you had people around you that were part-time Christians that were going to church or
Well,
saying,
I made a lot of drastic changes
Well-
that took a lot of people off guard.
well,
You caught them off guard.
yeah, but what I'm saying, my point, what I'm trying to make about my point about you is you had a lot of people around you that didn't understand what you were going through. They wanted to say you were taking too far and you were being over-religious, first of all. They were part-time Christians, right?
Well,
And now let me finish.
well, let me tell you what I did, though. I mean,
Okay, go ahead.
I went through my entire house throwing things out. When I first had my encounter with the Lord, okay, I went through my house, and I got anything and everything out of my house. I threw CDs away, anything that I thought, and I probably did kind of go a little overboard.
Well, Dave Mustaine would have threw that one CD away that you did too by him, because he the way he is now, he'd be like,
Well,
yeah, I believe that, Andrew. Way to go. Rick."
I just, you know what I mean? I just went like, because I saw I met the real Jesus Christ.
Right.
And then I started looking around at my life, and I wanted everything that didn't look like him out of it.
Well, I understand.
That I knew he wouldn't approve of.
You might have went overboard, but here's the point.
Well, everybody thought she's done lost her mind.
You're going, you end up, but you've ended up.
I think honestly, I just found my mind is what I did.
Yeah.
I didn't have a mind before.
Right. Well, here's the thing. You've balanced yourself out now. No problem with that.
But it took a while. I had to get rooted and grounded in the Word. I spent a lot of time studying the Word of God. I studied the Greek, the Hebrew. I did Beth Moore studies. Now, Beth Moore studies gets deep down in the Greek and the Hebrew.
Well, but here's the thing. This is who started this whole conversation for the whole week was Beth Moore last Monday when I played her entitlement. This is what started it because and this is what God was telling me. You were talking about those part-time Christians. See, those were part-time Christians around you. They were going. And I don't use the word fake because.
Well, I tend to see them as apostate.
Okay.
An apostate church is what I see it.
Well, I'm not talking about the religious organization you were a part of that disgraced themselves. I'm talking about people that were around you that were part-time Christians too, that may have attended that, or people that were around you that were families and friends that you knew that were part-time Christians. Because this is how we are taught. This is what's happened over the past 20 years or so. We have went from we had a preacher tell us that was coming down on us everything we did wrong, and then all of a sudden we find a church where the preacher was like, "You come in here," and it might have been a charlatan preacher or whatever, but you come in here, you ask Jesus for your forgiveness, you lay it all at His feet, and you don't have to worry anymore. So then we got it in our mind that as long as we know Jesus, we can do whatever we want, and that's when we become part-time Christians. Then when someone like you, and you start feeling like, I'm going into 100%, it's just about family, it's just about this, it's just about that, it's just about a married couple, And then you're trying to tell a person that it's just about you and them, and they're of the world. And the person is of the world, and all he sees is the world, and he's like, man, I can't go out here and run around with as many women as I want to. She wants me to be dedicated to her.
Well, what we have here, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening, and you're trying to kind of figure out, this is what's going on, okay? The Church of Jesus Christ has members in it that have changed their loyalty, okay? They have allied with
the world,
with the Lord's opposition, okay?
All right.
And when I realized that this was going on in a church that I was a part of, and that many of the churches in that area, this was back in Alabama, had some of them, and they have one ringleader, okay, and he's a preacher at a church, and they go to him, and he gets them trained, right, and then he'll send them out to these other churches. Pretty soon, all these other churches start having all these problems, okay, that they didn't have before. And it's all about him trying to make his church bigger, okay? He wants to be the superstar preacher. He wants the biggest. He wants to have the biggest. So he gets his little minions, and they come and they go to this church, right? Now, when I realized this was going on, I defected from it. And I just want you to know, these people came after me to ruin my life, okay? And they totally have some of my family members brainwashed. Now, a lot of them are kind of coming out of it now. But I've seen my family members have to pay these preachers off just so that they can run their businesses and stuff without being hurt. Because, and you know, when I defected, they came after me, okay? They came after me to destroy my life. And now what I'm doing, because I'm on the radio, is called whistleblowing. And, you know, and look, when I say something about churches and preachers, I'm not talking about all of them. Because when I left that church, I went to the local Baptist church, and I just want you to know, they took me, I'm talking about Southern Baptist Association now. I have a lot of respect for them. And are they perfect? No. They probably have some of these people, you know, but in their churches and in their organizations too. But I want you to know that their structure and their protocol is set up to where it's aligned with. It would be really hard. It's hard for an apostate person to become successful in that organization because of the type of protocol and structure they have. And that's just one denomination that I know of. Now, some of you might be listening and saying, well, I know one of those churches, da-da-da-da-da. Well, yeah, like I said, I'm not saying no one denomination is 100%, okay?
Well,
but I'm telling you, if it's going on in that denomination, they know about it, and it won't go on long. I can tell you that.
Well, so what we're discussing today is what I started a series last week, is what we were discussing today. It's what I like to call part-time Christians. It's God is calling out us to step up to the plate, to turn our back on what the world is doing. And that means turn our back on the worldly things, not be attracted by the worldly things, but be attracted to Jesus and show God is real.
So this is a type of protest.
Well, it's in a way, but it's also to show God is real. Just like Jesus showed God was real by healing the blind man.
I'm getting it. I think I'm seeing where this is going now. Okay. So the Lord wants all of his people in protest to turn their back on even the situation that what I was doing. Like I was saying, this was a social thing, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're protesting now by completely and totally 100% withdrawing from the world altogether.
And creating
in every shape, form, and
becoming
fashion.
Leaders again, because we were the leaders of this world.
Because the Lord, because if it's anything about what the Lord's been talking to me about, he's about to do some weed out
Well, he's
He's
coming.
about to spray some. What's that stuff you spray on weeds?
It's weed out, yeah.
He's about to spray some weed out in his garden.
Well, you see, that makes sense. But here's the thing.
I guess he don't want you to get, hit by a stray bullet
Well,
or whatever.
he wants to keep his flowers from. He wants them to keep blossoming.
Yeah.
He wants his flowers to bloom, but he wants his weeds to die. And if you say it like that, but here's
So
the
that
thing.
means he wants us to basically get up and walk out on the world.
Yeah, well,
Turn
basically,
our backs on it.
he said he wants us to be the leaders we once were. He said because he is ready. He's going. When he comes back, he's going to come back and do his thing. We all know this. We already know this about Revelations. But what he wants us to do is take over as leaders again. He wants people to see. Because what he wants to do is if we do this, there's going to be some of those weeds that are going to turn into beautiful flowers and want to come to our side. And he wants to save some of them.
I think you're a beautiful flower.
Well, thank you. He wants to save
That
some of
cute
them.
ponytail.
Oh, no. But he wants to save some of them. Okay, he wants to save some of the non-believers, some of the lost, some of the people that are out here doing wrong. He wants to save them. But if we are doing the same thing they're doing, we are pushing them away from God. Is what he's saying.
Well, that to me that reminds me of when the death angel was going to pass through Egypt, and God said, "Smear the blood over the doorpost," and every door that has the blood on it, the death angel is going to pass over you. Now, this is Abaddon. The only time you ever see Abaddon's name mentioned is in Revelation, but he's the death angel.
Right.
He's the destroyer.
Yeah.
I think Metallica wrote a song about him. What's that song?
Creeping Death.
Yeah, Creeping Death is about Abaddon. So what you're saying is God wants us to basically withdraw, come in under a shelter of protection because Abaddon's about to go through and take out the weeds.
Yeah. And the thing about it is
And then we might get caught in the crossfire if we're in a place that we don't need to be.
right, we're going to get caught in something because God is wanting to weed them out. He wants them, and he doesn't want. He is not blaming the non-believers. He's not blaming the lost. He's not blaming them for them not knowing him.
He's blaming the
Part-time Christians.
the masquerading Christians, the people who are out here masquerading as Christians, but they're doing damage to
Because they're going out.
making the Lord's name look bad.
Yeah. So he is calling all of us as Christians
The real
to go from part-time to full-time. We no more part-time.
Right.
We're not part-time workers anymore. We're full-time. And our full-time is to walk away from the world,
Right.
not judge the world, love the world, respect the world.
Right. We got to separate ourselves.
Separate ourselves from what they're doing because God wants to. He wants them to see us.
I believe it.
We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back. We'll continue the discussion after the break.
The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the beliefs of this radio station, its management, or its sponsors. Listeners are urged to use their own discernment to draw their own conclusions.
Good morning, Noonan.
It is Rhino Radio Mornings on this Manic Monday. It's kind of a weird, wacky Monday. 17 minutes past the hour. Beautiful sunny skies out there. It is May 22nd, 2017. If you got birthday's anniversary, shoot them in here to us at 99classicrock@gmail.com. Or if you got something you want us to talk about in the community, just give us a call. And the numbers are at this number, 678-673-6318, or shoot me an email. We're going to continue talking about some things here. Just want to remind everybody, it was a fantastic, fun time this past weekend in historic downtown Noonan as we had the Tucked Away Music Day. And that thing was awesome. All kind of great musicians. Got to see some of the students from the musicology school here perform, and it's great to see young people do that. Got to see, I was able to see a few people downtown. All the restaurants were open. It was great. It was a great and wonderful time. Diverse music, rock and roll music, bluegrass music, oldies music. There was a lot of people playing music you heard right here on this station. So I know that people love this station. Gotta love this music because that's what they were playing. You know, American Pie, some Allman Brothers. I mean, come on, you hear all that here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a fantastic weekend. I know they had the radio over the weekend and went very well as well. So anything else going on? We've got some community events we're going to talk about this hour. If you got anything, you want to shoot me an email at 99classrock@gmail.com. We'll be happy to announce it. All right, let's get back into a discussion. We were having fun last hour. We were discussing God telling us we've got to step up, we got to step away, and we got to turn our back on the worldly things. Not turn our back on the world, but turn our back on the worldly things. Because He is, you made the perfect example. He's going to weed out the bad weeds, and He wants the beautiful flowers to bloom and be a part of His flock. So, and Jesus is God's tired of us kind of spitting in Jesus' face, saying we're Christians and we're doing what the world's doing.
Well, this is what happens when Jeremiah buys the field. Now, some people don't know what in the world I'm talking about, and some people know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Don't you just, every time he buys that field, something happens, right?
Right.
The whole point about Jeremiah buying the field is that Jeremiah, I told you guys that God had told Jeremiah all this stuff to say. And because it didn't happen okay, you said it, well, it's been a week since you said it, and, we ain't seen all the stuff you said God's going to punish us for, Well, then they started mistreating Jeremiah. They started, people around him started mistreating him really badly. He became a targeted individual during his time. And he was crying, because they locked him up in a cistern for a long time and just left him there. And he was crying, and he was, and I understand because, I don't think Jonah probably never thought he was going to get out of the belly of that whale either.
Oh, I know. I heard Jonah and the whale brought up this whole week during the Sunday morning programming that we have on. All the pastors we had on were talking about being of the world, and they also used Jonah. So it was just weird and unique that you just saying that. It just all came together. But anyway, sorry about that.
Well, and here's the thing, what God does is He'll say something, and then He'll let it happen right then, just so to reassure you that everything else He said is going to happen too.
Kind of like when Jesus put the clay on the blind man, and he had washed it out, and he had sight immediately because God wanted to show His power right then.
Kind of like when God tells you something and then it happens.
Yeah.
Whether He speaks to you in prayer or He speaks to you in His Word or however God communicates with you.
Oh, okay.
And if you're doubting if this is God communicating with you, however He's doing it, then what He does is He tells you something in that communication form, in the form that He communicates to you. He'll tell you something and then do it. Like, He'll sit there and tell you, see, God speaks to me through His Word, prophetically through His Word, through the concepts and ideas of what's going on in situations and stories.
Mm-hmm.
And then He allows me to apply it to my world, the same concepts and ideas and laws and rules and things. And when He sits there and starts talking about how the voice of the Lord thunders and all of this, He's basically talking about a thunderstorm and then all of a sudden here comes a thunderstorm. You know,
Right.
like in a couple of hours right after, you know, God speaking to you about the, you know, how his voice, you know, when you're out in the middle of the ocean and you don't know where you are, and then you still pick up your Bible and it says the voice of the Lord thunders over the waters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it strikes like lightning and all this stuff, and then an hour later here comes a thunderstorm, and
Right.
you're in a boat in the middle and you don't even know where you are, somewhere in the Caribbean, right? And well, you know, that's him. That's Jeremiah buying the field.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Jeremiah bought the field. When that happens to you, that's what we mean when we say Jeremiah bought the field. You know, every time he buys that field, something happens, right? And so when we got to Cozumel, Mexico, we toured the ancient Mayan ruins, and this was once like a city, a thriving city, and we saw, according to, you know, the tour guide and everything, he was showing us places where they had fertility rituals, and they did practice human sacrifices on that, you know, and during their time. And we even saw an altar, I mean, what's left of it, where they, you know, would practice the human sacrifices and other things. And now, you know, and look, I was reading Isaiah, and this kind of goes back to what you're saying about God closing up everything, because, you know, we were talking about Noah's Ark and how God shuts some people out and shuts some people in.
Yeah, before you left.
So that he separates people.
Right.
And right before his wrath comes out.
Right.
And I was reading Isaiah 13, where it says, the day of the Lord is coming, a cruel day with wrath and fierce anger, to make the land desolate and to destroy the sinners within it. The stars of heaven and their constellations will not show their lights. The rising sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light. I will punish the world for its evil, the wicked for their sins. I will put an end to the arrogance of the haughty, and will humble the pride of the ruthless. I will make man scarcer than pure gold. So we're talking about thinning out the population. I mean, I don't know how much, when God says, I'm going to make man scarcer than pure gold, I mean, pure gold is rare.
It's rare.
So he's really talking about thinning out the population here. More than the gold of Ophir, or however you say that. Therefore I will make the heavens tremble, the earth shake from its place, at the wrath of the Lord Almighty in the day of his burning anger. Like a hunted gazelle, like sheep without a shepherd, each will return to his own people and will flee to his native land. Whoever is captured will be thrust through. All who are caught will fall by the sword. Their infants will be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their houses will be looted and their wives ravished. See, I will stir up against them the Medes, who do not care for silver and have no delight in gold. Their bows will strike down young men. They will have no mercy on infants, nor will they look with compassion on children. Babylon, the jewel of kingdoms, the glory of the Babylonians' pride, will be overthrown by God like Sodom and Gomorrah. She will never be inhabited or lived in through all generations. No Arab will pitch his tent there, no shepherd will rest his flock there, but desert creatures will lie there. Jackals will fill her houses. There owls will dwell, and the wild goats will leap out. Hyenas will howl in her strongholds, jackals in her luxurious palaces. Her time is at hand, and her days will not be prolonged. Now, when I was going through the Mayan civilization there, and I was looking at, honestly, nothing but piles of rocks where once stood a thriving city. At one point in chronological time, this was the place to be. This was a thriving city with people living And now it's nothing but a heap of ruined rocks, and nothing lives there now but wild iguanas, lizards, insects, and birds. And wild animals and insects and birds now live where once was a thriving, prosperous city. And that's what I saw. And it was like the Lord directed me to this scripture while I was out there around about the same time. You know, I can't remember if it was before or after. I think it was after.
Right.
Because he wanted to draw the parallel between what I was seeing and his word. He does that with me. You know, he draws a parallel to the principles in the Bible and the things that he wants me to glean from his word to what I'm seeing around me happen. And I got to wondering to myself, and this was what I thought. Now, I wonder, in hundreds of years from now, when people are paying to walk through and see where we live, what stories are they going to be told about us?
Well, there's probably not going to be too many stories. They're going to probably say there were some ancient ruins like in New Orleans where they're taking down the statues and moving them to another place, and they're not going to even know that that's what was there. They're going to be in a museum if the museum even exists.
Well, I mean, we were talking about Gettysburg. Remember Gettysburg,
yes.
Pennsylvania?
Yes.
Your family's from your Swedish side of your family's from Pennsylvania.
Yes, they are.
And Gettysburg is an entire city dedicated to the history of the Civil War.
And I loved it there.
Now, here's the thing. If you remove all the monuments in the South, eventually they're going to work their way up to... I mean, here's the thing. In 100 or 200 years from now, they could be telling those people that it never even happened, and there won't be any evidence or proof it did. They could totally rewrite history. See, that's why
what they've done.
That's why everybody should want it to stay. Everybody, it's in everybody's best interest for our we call them mile markers, you know.
Well, it is in everybody's best interest on that to keep what we learn from history, so we learn not to repeat history.
Exactly.
But here's also another thing to do with that. You got to really think that history has changed over the years. Just like I said last hour, history has changed. The only story that stayed the same is the angel coming to Mary and telling Mary that she was going to have God's son, Jesus, and he was born in a manger, and he died on a cross, and his story panned out the exact same way for the last hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, where what I learned in school, kids are learning different. And no, it's not something they're discovering new. They're changing history, because history teachers are not even teaching these kids anymore. It offends them. They're not even teaching these kids anymore what history is and what history isn't.
Yeah, the Bible offends them, but there's some schools where they're teaching same-sex marriage, and they're teaching stories about, having two mommies.
I'm
stuff.
talking about history.
But they can't talk about.
They don't even teach history right anymore.
No, because we did a show about how I did some research, and I found articles written where Japan, Afghanistan, a lot of countries have been reported changing their history.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. We have history is
like they're rewriting.
Right, they're rewriting it, or they're leaving things out. Here's the thing. We got a poster behind us. Well, I Have a Dream with Martin Luther King. Will that be one day taken down? Because when he had the dream to do what he did, what Dr. Martin Luther King did, is not. He's rolling over in his grave at what's going on in this day and time, because that man had to stand up for his rights and stuff, and
he lost his life.
He lost his life. Yeah, he lost his life for that, and people are taking advantage today and doing things that are not real. He would be flipping over in his grave, and probably is. And will we get rid of him? Will we stop studying him? there's a possibility that he will be out of our history books once they take down these monuments. Once Andrew Jackson's not known, the Civil War never existed. We
Who
didn't.
knows what they'll say?
You know,
when we're all gone and
yeah,
nobody can speak up and correct and say, no, that's not what happened, right?
Exactly.
Well, you know,
Because you're talking about these ruins down there in Mexico.
what Martin Luther King did, he lost his life for, and all the progress that our world and our society was, all the progress that was made because of what this man did. He touched people. He was marching for, you know, black Americans to have rights, but he touched the hearts of a lot of white people too, and I mean, just he touched all kinds of people. He was one of these kind of unique people that could cross boundary lines.
But do you think?
And what I'm trying to say is that all the progress that he made for us, for all of us, is now being undone by people who are claiming that they're trying to further his agenda, but they're not. They're not trying to further his agenda. They're really hurting and destroying all the progress this man lost his life to make.
Well, the question is, will they get rid of him? Will they stop looking up to him as a leader? Will he be taken away as a leader of what he did? Because once we discover that he marched, what he did, he marched for rights. But once we discovered that he's a Christian man and he was a pastor, is that going to take away from anything that he did in the past? Yes, because you know why I'm saying this? Because our society is trying.
He was a real Christian.
No, because Christians. Yeah, not because of that. I'm saying because Christians are being looked down upon, and we are not stepping up trying to show the world what Christians are. We don't need to lose our history, and we don't need to lose what's going on, and we don't even need to lose leaders like this who are Christian leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King out of what's going on in history. We need to keep all of this because it's going to change, because when the atheists want to take over, and I do not want to teach about Dr. Martin Luther King. Why? Because he was a Christian, and he did this as a Christian.
Well, I know that there are some apostate black Christian leaders who like to use Martin Luther King, you know, like they try to use him to woo people over into following them, when they really, if you really listen to them, they're really not anything like Martin Luther King. Like, they're the total opposite, in my opinion. I think they're just kind of seeking fame and stuff, and they're just trying to ride on Martin Luther King's coattail. And you know, they get a few people to follow them here and there, but the majority of the black people that I talk to are aware of this. They know that's happening. They're not dumb.
Well,
you know, they know what's going on.
This is not going to get into a different race discussion and who we're going to.
Well, what I'm saying is, you're talking about the fact of him being a Christian.
I'm talking about the fact of Christian. I'm not talking about the fact.
So what you're saying is, they're not. They're just going to be against him for being a Christian.
Give it a few years.
So what you're saying is, it's okay to be an activist for black people as long as you're not a real Christian doing it.
Well,
right?
no, and I'm not just saying an activist for black people. I'm saying an activist, a lunatic activist for everything. Okay.
Well, every activist have these little groups. Like,
what
group are you talking about?
I'm talking about all of them.
Women's activists.
I'm talking about all of them. I'm talking about all of them because once we discover he's a man, and here's the thing.
He was a straight man too.
Here, hold on,
Martin Luther King was straight.
Okay, this is what I'm saying.
And Christian.
Let me finish, please. He was a straight Christian man who was a pastor.
Right.
And so
he changed our world.
Well, he changed our world for the better. But what I'm saying is, give it a few years. Give us a few years. Well, I'm not
for
saying,
any reason.
Yeah, give us a few years, and people are going to say, "Well, he was straight. We can't follow him." Well, he's a man. We don't want to listen to him. Well, he was a Christian. We don't want to listen. Forget the point that he's black.
Forget the black thing.
Okay, because that's not the way it is in 2017. We might as well forget this whole black and white thing, because that's not what
they just say that's it, but it ain't.
No, what we got to understand is, forget that he and what he did in history is changed something, and we do not. You give them a few years, they're going to want to take things down to him. They're going to want to change days. They're going to want to change roads. And you know what? You might be 40-something years old now, and you might be 60 or 70 when it happens, and you might get offended because you're like, that's always been called Martin Luther King Drive, and they're going to change it. Well, that's because this is why God is calling us out as part-time Christians. We need to get our butts and be full-time Christians, turn our back on what the world is doing, and teach our kids right from wrong, so that we can keep our history up, so that we can teach them not to repeat history, and so that this is not going to happen. I'm telling you, mark my words. Mark my words. They're going to take Martin Luther King down in a few years, because the more we get away from God, this was a godly, straight Christian man. We can't have leaders like that. Look how they're attacking Vice President Pence for his belief in Jesus Christ, and him being a straight male that will not go and have dinner with any woman, even people that work for him, unless his wife is with him. We are.
So he's kind of like trying to set an example.
He's trying to set an example. You got
protocol.
Protocol. Yeah.
You know, it's dealing with your image and what other people see when they look at you.
Right.
I can totally get
right.
That. Yeah.
So they're walking out on him. They're disrespecting the man. They're walking away from him. And what are we going to do? We're going to take all this down, and we're going to end up like down there in Mexico where there's ruins and we don't know what was there. And we're going to make it up that once stood here, the king of so-and-so, and there was never any kings in New Orleans. What stood here? They're going to take down something and take down Civil War. And this was a battlefield, but we don't know. I think America battled New England. It was the Revolutionary War, and really it was the Civil War. What we're going to do, we're going to change the point that Dr. Martin Luther King did what he did, and there was no such thing as Dr. Martin Luther King, that the next activist was a activist that was an atheist, gay activist or something, and that's what changed America.
No, it'll be a gay person and everything, but they'll lie and say, I'm a Christian pastor or something. That's what an apostate is.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, in the end, as we grow, our society is not advancing. Our society is decreasing. It's demoralizing, and its mind is falling apart. Okay, we've gone from good Christian values to Christians, to Christians acting like the world, and to we're losing everything that was our identity as a country. We will not be a country. The United States will not be a country if we don't stand up for the Civil War. What was in the Civil War? What happened during the Civil War? Because right now, people that were against the rebel flag, and not that I'm for it or against it or anything, I don't really care either way. People that were against the rebel flag think they're getting. Once you start taking this down, it's going to get to where they're going to want to get rid of a straight Christian pastor who changed the world's mindset back in the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
and we're going to get rid of him.
That demonstrates the power that a Christian can have.
Mm-hmm.
So it's what you're saying. It doesn't have anything to do with what cause that God raised him up to speak out against. It was the fact that God raised him up to be a leader, and he gave him power. And they don't want the devil, Satan, God's enemies in this world, does not want people realizing that if you follow Jesus Christ, God can raise you up and give you power to make changes. They want you to be ineffective, right? Is that kind of where you're going? You think that they're just going to eliminate any strong, powerful Christian leaders, period, no matter what they were standing for?
That's one part of it. That it's like one of those diagrams where you got the one heading, and then you got these other little headings out here, and other little headings out here, and other little headings out here with different things under it. That, it's like the heading up here. It says metal music, and then you got these different headings: thrash, punk, metal, rock, punk rock, glam. You know, and then all the list of groups up under. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like what you're saying is it's one of the millions of things that, as long as we don't step up as Christians and we don't turn our back on the world, and you keep telling me, and people keep hearing Ryan tell them, don't do this. I'm tired of that. I want to do what I want to do. I'm going to continue to do what I want to do. And the thing about it is, somebody is telling you this, and in the long run, if our world keeps going the way it is, we're going to call Dr. Martin Luther King a racist. And we're going to say that all he did was for straight black people, straight black people, to bring straight black people into this. And
yeah, like everybody, like eventually they'll totally change and rewrite Dr. Martin Luther King's story.
To
where people will be saying they'll be talking about a completely different person that
had nothing to do with him.
Nothing to do with who the real Martin Luther King was.
Just like we don't know.
Well, they do that now with some historical people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We have historical figures back in King Henry's day and all this stuff, King in England and everything, and the Roman Catholic Church was just put down for back then, and this, that, and the other, and said they had this much power, and we don't know what was going on. All we know is what we were supposedly taught in history. And look at Hitler. Hitler went from being, all we knew was he was the most evil man in the world that put Jews in a gas chamber and killed them. Now, the man is a time traveler. He's been in UFOs with aliens. He's got zombie friends. Oh, next thing you know, he was bitten by Dracula, and he's been living in Dracula's castle in Transylvania, and that's why all this stuff's going on, because he's been bit by Dracula. We just keep on changing history, and we keep on adding things to history. And we keep on saying, and we take things away that we don't want to teach that happened, because we're trying to say we don't want to offend nobody. And the thing about it is, if you don't learn something from the past, you're going to repeat the past. These people out here, you're going to start with taking down the monuments in New Orleans, and then next thing you're going to want to take care of Civil War, and then down the road, leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King, leaders like George Washington, leaders like John F. Kennedy, leaders that did good things in our country are going to be reversed because they were straight.
I bet they won't never change the story about Hugh Hefner. I bet they won't never change the story about Charles Manson and Jim Jones. They'll never change those stories.
They probably will.
What, you think one day Charles Manson's... Well, I know there's some people in this world probably see him as a hero.
No, what he did was we don't even talk about him that much anymore. They don't care. That was a big 80s and 90s thing. People don't care about. And Jim Jones we don't know whether anybody went over there and tried to take him out or not. We don't know what the truth about that is. We just know what we've been told. But nobody talks about that. What I'm saying is, if we're going to start changing history, we're going to end up changing bad history for the good, and good history is going to be erased. Just like you said when you went down to Mexico and you visited that.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. History's history. And none of us today were responsible for what happened then. So why, you know what I mean? That's the whole point. So why does it hurt us to have a monument up that, because to me, I see that as like mile markers, because I remember like when we were in Laughlin, Nevada, and we were climbing Spirit Mountain. And remember how we saw these professional, you and I are just two, we were just kind of like going on a little nature trail walk. But they had professional hikers out there, and they had these little things that they would tie onto the limbs and things. So if they got lost, they could find their way back. And they're called mile markers. And they use them in the Bible. They would set up these rocks in certain places where they would cross rivers and stuff. So if you ever got lost and you could find your way back.
Right.
If you run up on, if you got lost, you was wandering around, and then you ran up on this rock where they had set up like a monument or whatever, you would know where you are.
Right.
And I see that's why we do these monuments and things about history, because if we ever get lost, right? If we ever forget where we are, if we ever forget who we are, those remind us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we can look at those mile markers, those things that we put up out here in the world that mark places we've been. Like, you know, do you really want that destroyed? You know? Do any of us really want that destroyed?
Nope. We're going to take a break. Stay tuned. Back here in a moment. Welcome back into Rhino Radio Mornings. Good morning to you. Hope you're having a great morning so far. I'm Ryan O'Neill.
I'm Andrew Polanis.
We're getting ready to head out of here in just a few moments right here. Don't you dare move away from that radio dial. We got best in 70s all day. Rocky Man Roberts at midday. And, of course, my good friend Mike overnight taking you up from 6 to midnight tonight. Midnight to 3 a.m. We got Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. And, of course, everything from Ghost Goblins and all that good stuff. 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. It's Catching the Wave with Jam and James Riley. And then 4 to 6 a.m. it's Stories in the Attic with Greg bringing the best music from Aerosmith to Iron Maiden. So that's our lineup for today on this Manic Monday. Okay, we're going to have to discuss some of this. We're running out of time. But this has been a very great discussion today.
Well, there was when I was in Jamaica, I was down and we docked in Montego Bay, and then we went out into the city, the historic city. They had a monument there put up for a man named Samuel Sharp, who was a preacher that they hung there. I kind of got some of the story. Before I say anything about it, he was a black man, and I'm going to kind of read up on that, and I'm going to try to talk about that maybe one day, this week or something, maybe tomorrow.
Well, we got a whole week, so we got plenty of time to do, look up things and talk about it.
Yeah, and but like I said, people put up mile markers when they're on a journey. When the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt, and whenever they'd have a significant experience in a certain place, they would name that place, and they would put some type of take rocks, and they'd build an altar or some type of a monument there in dedication to, the experience that they had there. And they'd also, and that's how a lot of those places got their names, like Peniel and Mahanaim and places like that. And so I see historical, monuments and mile markers and things like that as being very significant for that reason.
Right.
Now, if I were the leader of another country that was wanting to come and take your country over, naturally, I would start with little things like that, and I'd work my way all the way up to the White House and the big monument of Abraham Lincoln.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I'd come there and build monuments and statues of myself in your country, and make you call me great. And because nobody's, as long as, look, think about it. As long as we've all been here, some of us in our 40s on up, has anybody ever complained about our historical landmarks and things?
No.
Historical,
No.
Nobody. Why now all of a sudden?
Well, just keep in mind, we're going to get out of here. Just keep in mind that the more we take away from history, the more we take away from not learning about our past, it can happen to anything and anybody that we have learned about in the past. Because we are we need to do as Christians, stop being part-time Christians, take back over to big leaders. If we want to keep any of this from going down, complaining on Facebook, complaining on social media is not going to help you keep your monuments up. It's not going to help people keep you from destroying our history or keep you destroying even trying to go after history like Dr. Martin Luther King. And it's going to happen. What we have to do is teach our kids right. And we got to tell them that they're wrong. And no, you don't get up and walk out on the vice president of the United States. If you do that, you might as well walk up into prison.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I want to dedicate a song to everybody, but I know how we can do something that could impact. In the book of Joel, God says, God says in the Bible, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, then I will hear from heaven and come and heal their land. If the priest will weep, rent your heart, not your garment, weep between the porch and the altar.
All right, we'll play a little bit of this song.